Nora McInerny is a comedian and master storyteller known for bringing heart and levity to the difficult and uncomfortable conversations most of us try to avoid, and also for being very tall. She is the critically acclaimed author of the memoirs It's Okay to Laugh, Crying is Cool Too, and her newest, No Happy Endings. She hosts the award-winning podcast Terrible Thanks for Asking, and founded the nonprofit Still Kickin' and the Hot Young Widows Club. Most importantly, she was voted most humorous by the Annunciation Catholic School class of 1998. Please welcome to read from her new book, No Happy Endings, Nora McInerny.
Everyone puts their best foot forward in a dating profile, obviously. You put time into the selection of photos and the self-descriptions because you've got just a few moments to snag the potential love of your life while they swipe through a seemingly endless catalog of available humans. As my friend Faye designed her dating profile, she made a conscious decision to include her relationship status, which sounds unremarkable, except that her status was widowed. She worried about that one word, and the effect it might have on potential mates. She feared that one word would disqualify her from the dating game. It might be too much for a man to know that she had loved someone before, that she had promised herself to be with him until death do they part. It might be a lot to take in that death had parted Faye and her husband via a light rail train and a bicycle and an intersection he crossed every day. That's a fair concern to have because it's a lot to live through when it happens to you. I shared the same concerns as Faye when I started dating, and my husband had not died suddenly. Aaron had been treated for brain cancer for 3 years before he died, and I knew from revealing that information, even in platonic situations, it had one of two effects on people. It could shut them down or open them up like an automatic door. But when you see enough people recoil in horror at just the facts of your life, you start to feel that the only way to be worthy of love is to be footloose, fancy-free, and devoid of any trauma, grief, or basic human emotions. You want to be a person with no past, the human equivalent of a goldfish, completely unencumbered by anything you've ever seen or experienced. All of your history just evaporating from your little goldfish brain, placing you blessedly and perpetually in the present moment. And it's not like this concern of being too much or caring too much is limited to widows. Plenty of my not widowed friends have their own things that they're sure would be too much for someone to possibly opt in to loving them. None of those things involve incinerating someone you once shared a bed with and then storing them in a plastic bag. The night they first met, Faye's date asked her about her husband. He asked about her experience as a widow, about what her marriage was like, and why he wondered, would she think he'd be deterred by her loss? Why would it scare him that she'd been loved, that she'd had a healthy relationship? Shouldn't everyone aim for that in life? Why would we categorize our universal human experiences of loss, love, and grief as something negative? Faye obviously married that guy. Because unless you marry the person you met at age 15, at high school orientation, when you were both shiny and new, everyone you meet will come to you in some other than new state, pre-owned, slightly used, refurbished. No matter how slick and shiny we look on the outside, we've all got some miles on us, and that's not a bad thing. After Aaron's death, I found myself gravitating toward people who wore their miles proudly, who showed up with whatever they were carrying and just laid it out there. Not polite people, not perfect people, just people, the kind who tell you the truth when you ask how they are, who don't even think about lying and telling you that everything's fine. And I realized that romantically, I needed someone who had also been through some stuff. Someone who had been to the dark places, who had walked through the fire, who had suffered at the hands of love and was willing to do it again. Because I'm proud to be a widow. I'm proud to have loved someone so much. So if this is baggage, it's at least the fancy stuff I could never afford, but keep getting Instagram ads for. But I don't think it's baggage. I don't think that Aaron, that loving him and losing him is something that I'm trying to jam into the overhead compartment when it clearly needs to be checked, which is me passively, aggressively addressing everyone I've ever flown on an airplane with. Even if they're heavy and unwieldy, our past lives aren't baggage. They're not defects. They're features. Our past experiences, especially the hard ones, help us navigate the world around us and ahead of us. Aaron died when he was 35 years old, and that will always be tragic. That will always make me sad, but our love and his death have never been a burden to me. They will not be a burden to anyone who loves me next. Aaron's love and Aaron's death are my foundation. They're my standard for love and marriage and strength and bravery. They're the stable place I get to build from, and that's all I've learned from life. And it's what I wish I could tell all my former selves, that loving once makes you better at loving and better at being loved. That whatever happens with each relationship, whatever you're left with when it's over, you can carry it all proudly. Thank you.